Parshas Balak, Tovshin, Pei Dalet. What an interesting parsha. This parsha is just one of those tremendous quote, storyline. The entire episode, Balak, Bilam, and really the entire story and the entire episode of Balak and Bilam trying to bring about the downfall of Klal Yisrael. It's quite fascinating. And all the things that Balak and Bilam, all the things they wanted to try, and we know as much as they tried to curse Klal Yisrael, try to get them to do Averos, everything they tried, it did not work. Bilam and Balak, they got together, two very, very unlikely, it's a very odd couple, very unlikely pair of human beings over here. And somehow, we see from here that we see it throughout history also, that people that normally would not get together and people that don't like each other and should never really like each other, and they're from a totally different class system, different places, different nationalities, but when it comes to hating Jews, when it comes to hating Klal Yisrael, so everybody becomes friends and everyone joins up forces, and that's really what happened over here with Balak and Bilam. However, whatever they tried did not work, and when they saw that trying to curse Klal Yisrael, the idea of that whole scheme to curse Klal Yisrael was not going to work, Hashem was not letting it happen, so really Balak needed a new tactic from Bilam. He needed to do a new thing. How are we going to stop Klal Yisrael? He needed advice how to get Bnei Yisrael to do an Aveira, to sin. And then, therefore, once he would get them to do an Aveira, so they would not have the protection of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because they'd be alienated from Hashem. They did Aveiras, and Hashem would, Kaviyachol, Chas v'Shalom, be angry at Klal Yisrael. That's what they wanted to cause. Once they did Aveiras, they felt that they would have an in over here because Hashem would not be close with Klal Yisrael. So Bilam suggested, as we know, the Aveiros, you look at a little further in the Parsha, that he suggested the Aveiros of Baal Pa'or, B'nai Smoya, the different Aveiros. So cursing Klal Yisrael was not going to work. And now we got this idea, let's get Klal Yisrael separate from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's get them to do Aveiros. And once they do Aveiros, then Hashem's not going to take care of Klal Yisrael anymore. And he knew that the Yisoidus of Am Yisrael, what's the Yisoid? The foundations of what makes a Yid are Emunah and Kedusha. And he thought that if he could affect the Emunah or the Kedusha of Klal Yisrael, then we're going to do business. If we could affect somehow the Emunah, Baal Pa'or, the Kedusha, B'nai Smoya, he said we could do some of that, then they'll be alienated from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we will have some kind of power over Klal Yisrael, because they're going to lose their relationship with Hashem. And this is the way of their minds. This is the way that Balak and Bilam thought. This is what they thought, and this is what they knew would work in their minds, what would work to separate HaKadosh Baruch Hu from Klal Yisrael. But the Nesivos Shalom tells us something very, very beautiful. He says that's the way the mind of a goy. The mind of a goy works like this, everything's black and white, and if a person does an Aveira, then Hashem doesn't like them anymore. And if they're transgressing some sort of commandment or sin, then you're further from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the way the mind, in a simple mind of a goy, where everything is just black and white, that's the way it worked. But, says in the Nesivos Shalom, they didn't know there was something that they really, really couldn't understand. And this thing that Bilam and Balak did not understand, that is really actually something that's very, very encouraging for every single one of us. And in short, the Nesivos Shalom says, before we elaborate on it, he says that, in short, a person has to know that Hashem never gives up on any Yid. Doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what you've done, doesn't matter where you've been, Hashem never gives up on us. No one, absolutely no one, is ever too far or lost completely. And a Yid is able to even drag themselves out from the lowest depths and to work their way back, sometimes slowly, sometimes a little quicker, but every Yid, they could be so far down, but you're never lost. You're able to work yourself back. And if a Yid really wants to come back and he acts with Mesiras Nefesh, there is nothing at all that will stand in our way. We're able to come all the way back. If a person sees the Yetzer Hara, person gets up one morning, he's at a point of his life, he's struggling, he's having a hard time, and the person sees the Yetzer Hara like a fire in front of him, he has a hard time. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, if you're going through a hard time and you have a fight with the Yetzer Hara, it's right in front of you, like the Yetzer Hara of Balak and the Yetzer Hara of Bilam. What's the answer? The answer is to stand up for yourself and be like the end of the parsha. Be like Pinchas, who everybody else said that everything is lost. But what did Pinchas do? The pasuk tells us, Vayikach roimach biyodai. Pinchas held a staff, he held a stick, and he's going to battle. Mesiras Nefesh. You want to come back? Hashem is waiting for you, but you're going to have to act with Mesiras Nefesh. And Hashem is always there, and He's always waiting because He knows that you can do it. You just have to get up and do it. So the Nesivos Shalom tells us a beautiful thing, B'Shem, the Birkas Avram, and he tells us something very, very important for every person to know. It says every person, and every single person in this room, and everyone in Klal Yisrael, every person is different. But each and every person has their reason that they are on this world. And that's why it's almost laughable. It's so silly when you see people comparing themselves to each other. Because aside from the fact, Kol Yisrael Arevim Zelazeh, and yes, physically and spiritually you're supposed to help your friend and take care of them, but one person's purpose in this world has absolutely zero to do with your neighbor, your friend, the person sitting next to you in shul. And that's why it's ridiculous when people compare. I could do this, he's not doing that. You have nothing to do with each other. You have different challenges. So every person has their job in this world. But how do you know? How does a person know what their job is in this world? Tough question. Nobody is born in this world with a manual, right? You don't open it up and you have instructions, right? We have a Torah, a way to live, but we don't know what your challenge is. Says the Birkas Avram, says in the Nesivos Shalom, that the thing in your life that you have, he said, you want some indication, we can't know for sure, but the thing in your life that you have the most difficulty with, and whatever that may be, whatever Yetzer Hara that you have a hard time with, that you are dealing with, whatever Yetzer Hara seems to be the most challenging to you, with supernatural koiches, it seems like the Yetzer Hara is after you for this purpose, that's a good indication that that's your tafkid in your life. Person has a hard time sitting down to learn. Person talks too much, talks lashon hara. A person has a hard time getting up for davening, whatever it might be. But you have that challenge. The Nesivos Shalom tells us that's a good indication of what your purpose is in this world. So if you're going to start worrying about everybody else and what everybody else is doing, you just got off the exit and you're speeding down the runway, you're going down a highway the wrong way. You have to focus on what your challenges are, what you have a hard time with, and that's your tafkid in this world. And that's what you need to apply your Mesiras Nefesh to push back on that. And that is how you get to your tikkun, your purpose in this world. And there are times in everyone's life, everyone goes through it, where you're severely challenged by the Yetzer Hara. Don't let anyone, it's the way of the world. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And most people, at the time that they're being challenged so greatly by the Yetzer Hara, at that time, almost every person thinks that there's no way out. It's too much. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with this challenge. It's so hard. I can't fight the Yetzer Hara. A little thoughts in your mind go, maybe I should just give up. It's exactly at that moment when you feel that there's no way out, when you feel that the Yetzer Hara is challenging you too much, he's challenging you so much, it's exactly at that moment that you need to remind yourself that Hashem does not challenge anyone with something that is impossible to handle. If it's there to challenge you, Hashem gave you the inner strength. That's your purpose in this world. Hashem would not make you be born without the tools to deal with what your purpose in the world is. And the answer needs to be like the end of our parsha, like we say. It goes, the pasuk, Vayikach roimach biyodoi. Pinchas picked up that stick when everyone else thought it was gone. And he came. How? He came with Nesivos Nefesh because that was his tafkid at that point. You go to battle with Nesivos Nefesh. And that is really the answer for every Yid. There is no such thing as a Yid who is too far gone. Wherever you are, despite how trendy it may have become, right? You hear it all the time. Everyone says, this guy's a lost cause. This guy's off the D, off the B, off the Z. Everyone's off somewhere else. We write them off. We give up on that. He's not learning. He's not doing his homework. He's not coming. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. We write them off right away. We all have very quick signatures, right? We sign the paper. You're out of here. You're out. Despite how trendy it's become to say so, Pinchas was able, we see, to turn the anger. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Kaviyachu, was angry at Klal Yisrael. Pinchas was able to turn that completely around by taking the initiative, by having Nesivos Nefesh and fighting back. And every person has that capability to fight back with the Yetzer Hara and reconnect to Hashem. So don't let your, quote, friends tell you otherwise. And really, the Nesivos Shalom tells us in many places that this is an ikar of believing. This is an ikar of being a Jew. This is an ikar for a person to know that Hashem never gives up on a person. You are never too far. So Balak and Bilam thought that we're going to get Klal Yisrael to do Averos, and once they do Averos, they're alienated for good from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then we'll be able to get in. We'll be able to accomplish what we want, because for a goy, it's black and white. There's punishment, and everything is right there on the spot. They don't realize that we have a Father in HaKadosh Baruch Hu who treats us differently. We live by a totally different set of rules. And just because a Yid would do an Avera doesn't mean the game is over. Does not mean that at all. It just means that you're facing your challenge. And that's what Hashem put you for. And He put you here to have the challenge and to face the challenge. So you're right where Hashem wants you. And if you're right there, then it's our job to grow from that and to act with Nesivos Nefesh and to push back. And that's something that Balak and Bilam could definitely not comprehend. And not only could they not comprehend it, but they would never, ever be able to understand this. And the Haftarah tells us, you look at the beginning of the Haftarah this week, Haftarah says, Ami Zecharna. When we talk about this inyan of Balak and Bilam, the Haftarah, the Navi says, remember. What do you have to remember? We have to remember this point. That Balak, remember what Balak and Bilam wanted to do to you, but remember that they don't understand what a Yid is. They don't understand Hashem's relationship with Klal Yisrael. And that's the lesson we have to take out from this parsha. As much as Balak and Bilam tried, there are so many people and so many different ways that people try to do that to Klal Yisrael today. But we have to know that no one's ever written off. No matter where you are, no matter how far you are, Hashem wants you back, and you have the capability to face those challenges and to grow and come all the way back to where you belong, where you're placed. Don't worry about everybody else. It's your challenge. You can handle it, and you'll do it.